Let me ask you something right now, and I want you to answer this in your soul, not just in your head. Have you ever looked in the mirror and thought, if people really knew what I've been through, they wouldn't respect me. They'd run. Have you ever felt like your past was too messy, too painful, too ugly to share? Like the weight of what you've lived through would only scare people off instead of bring them closer? Now here's the truth that's gonna shake you to your core. The very story you've been hiding, the one you're ashamed of, the one that still makes your voice tremble and your eyes tear up. That story right there is the exact one that's going to set someone else free. Let that sink in. Your pain isn't pointless. Your struggle ain't random. Your scars are not a sign of failure. They're proof that you survived what was meant to break you, and when you own your story, you stop living in shame and start walking in purpose. Too many people out here thinking they're not qualified to inspire others because they've made mistakes, because they've failed, because they don't have a perfect background. But let me tell you something loud and clear: nobody connects with perfect. People connect with real. They connect with the broken places that still healed. The stories that didn't have fairy tale beginnings, but still found strength in the middle and courage at the end. See, there's somebody out there right now who's crying themselves to sleep because they think they're alone in their pain. They think nobody else understands. They think their story ends in defeat. But if you stand up and say, "Hey, I've been through that too, and I made it," you give them hope. You give them belief. You give them light in a place they thought would always be dark. You don't need to be a best-selling author. You don't need a microphone, a stage, or a million followers. All you need is the courage to say, "This is what I went through, and I'm still standing." You don't know how powerful that is. You don't know how life-changing your voice can be until you use it. And listen, I get it. I know it's hard to open up about the things that hurt. I know it's scary to revisit the parts of your life you wish you could erase. But what if those parts are the exact keys that unlock someone else's prison? What if your honesty is the thing that breaks a generational curse in someone else's family? What if your story is the answer to someone's silent prayer? You think you're just one person, but you are one person with a story nobody else on this earth can tell. That makes you valuable, that makes you powerful, and that makes you responsible. Not to be perfect, but to be honest. There was a time in my life where I thought keeping my mouth shut was strength. I thought hiding my pain meant I was in control, but all I was doing was building walls that kept people out, but also kept healing from getting in. It wasn't until I started owning my story that I realized the truth. Vulnerability isn't weakness, it's strength in its purest form. You don't inspire people by pretending you've never fallen. You inspire them by showing them how you got back up. That comeback story you're sitting on, it's gold, pure gold, but you've been treating it like it's garbage, hiding it away like it's something to be ashamed of. Let me tell you something that might rattle you. Somebody out there is drowning in the same storm you already survived. They need a lighthouse. They need a voice that says, "I've been where you are and there's a way out." You might be that voice, but only if you stop playing small. Only if you stop shrinking around your past. Only if you start owning your truth. You don't owe anybody perfection. What you owe the world and yourself is honesty, transparency, the kind of truth that says, "Yeah, I've been through some things, I made mistakes, I've failed, but I've learned, I've grown, and I'm still here." That's the kind of story that sets people on fire. That's the kind of story that creates movement. That's the kind of story that breaks chains. Now I want you to think about this. Every great speaker, every role model, every person who's ever inspired you, what made them powerful? Was it their resume, their bank account, their appearance? No, it was their story, the way they embraced their journey and shared it without apology. You got that same power inside of you, but you gotta be willing to dig. You gotta be willing to revisit the places you buried because they were too painful. You gotta be willing to stand in front of your past and say, "I'm not ashamed of you anymore. That's what ownership looks like. You can't inspire anybody with a fake life, and you can't walk in freedom while dragging around the chains of shame. If you want to change lives, you gotta start with your own. You gotta own your story so completely that nobody can use it against you, because you've already claimed it as part of your power. There's nothing more liberating than telling the truth. When you speak your truth, it echoes in the hearts of those who've been afraid to speak theirs. Your courage becomes contagious. Your strength multiplies when you pass it on. I've seen people from the roughest neighborhoods, people who have done time, people who have lost everything. They get up, share their truth, and start building bridges. They turn their story into a tool, a weapon, a shield, and guess what? Lives change because of it. So don't you dare sit on your story like it's not worth anything. Don't you dare disqualify yourself because you think your past is too messy. That's what makes it beautiful. That's what makes it relatable. That's what makes it human. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to wait until you make it to share what you've been through. Some of the most powerful stories are told in the middle of the storm, not just after it passes, because that's when it's real, that's when it's raw, that's when people feel it. You were not made to live in silence. You were made to roar, to testify, to leave a mark. Your story is the footprint you leave on this world, and the deeper the pain, the stronger the impression. Think about the generations that come after you. Think about your children, your community, your people. Do you want them to inherit your silence or your strength? Do you want them to walk in shame or in truth? It starts with you. It starts with you standing up and saying, "This is me, all of me, not just the polished parts, but the broken ones too." And when you do that, you give others permission to do the same. There is somebody out there praying for hope right now, and you are the answer. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real, because you've been through the fire and came out with a story to tell. So stop holding back, stop hiding, stop waiting for the perfect moment. This is the moment. Now, today, own your story, speak your truth, inspire others by being unapologetically you, and remember this: your story doesn't need to be finished to be powerful. It just needs to be shared. Someone is waiting. Someone needs it. Someone's healing is tied to your voice. You've survived for a reason. Now make it count. Own your story, and watch how it changes everything. So, let me leave you with this, and I want you to hold it deep in your spirit. You didn't go through everything you went through just to sit in silence. You didn't cry those tears, fight those battles, climb out of those valleys just to pretend like it never happened. No, that pain had a purpose. That struggle shaped your strength. That story, your story, isn't something to hide. It's something to lift up, to hold high, to shine bright. You don't need permission to speak your truth. You already earned it in the fire. You already earned it in the storm. Now it's time to use it, not just for you, but for the person who needs to know that they're not alone, for the one who's one step from quitting, one moment from giving up, one more heartbreak away from believing their life doesn't matter. Be the light, be the voice, be the proof that broken things can still be beautiful, that wounded hearts can still beat strong, and that the past doesn't define the future. You don't have to be perfect to be powerful. You just have to be real. Your story matters. Own it. And in doing so, you'll light the path for someone else to do the same. That's how we change lives. That's how we change the world. One story, one voice, one truth at a time.